Yes, good everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk Education with School Advocacy. My name is Awini Babatunde Augustine. I would like to appreciate everyone who watched the last video. Thanks for the likes, thanks for comment, thanks for the recommendations, and thanks for subscribing to the various channels where the video was posted. We started the topic last week, learning styles, and we kicked off by asking two questions. Number one, do learners learn the same way? Which I would say is the foundation of the topic. And secondly, we asked that is learning all about the child being smart, or is it about whether your teaching methodology accommodates the multiplicity that exists among learners? So we also define learning styles as the peculiarity that exists in a child that distinguishes him from every other person. So I'd like to add to that definition that learning styles can be defined as observable pattern of behavior that a child exhibits when it comes to relating with the learning environment, when it comes to relating with lesson materials or whatever a teacher is teaching at a particular time. So like I said, observable pattern of behavior. So I'd like to add that when you talk about learning style, it is composed of cognitive, affectionate, and physiological factors that serve as indicators of how a child prefers to learn. This definition will find its way when we come into the different models as regard learning styles. So when you talk about learning styles, or when you say when students learn, they prefer to exhibit certain uniqueness, which they believe gives them a comparative advantage when it comes to learning. However, I'd like to add to that they might have to adjust on certain grounds depending on the learning task. But nevertheless, there are still uniqueness that children will prefer to exhibit because they believe that uniqueness or that style they exhibit helps them to learn better. So, scholars will now say that it is now very important that teachers ensure that they match their teaching methodology or their lesson delivery to suit that learner's uniqueness, because it helps the learner to learn better, or it helps the learner to actually learn what you are trying to teach or what you are teaching in essence. So there are different models that a lot of scholars or researchers have come up with, but for the sake of this session or for the sake of the program, I would prefer to use the Neil Flemming model because we can actually relate with it better. But before we go there, I'd like to go over some others. Some people have said that when you talk about learning styles, students can be classified in the under the various groups. Number one, some have said that either a child is active or a child is reflective, or a child is concrete or a child is abstract. That this is how a child approaches learning. We have the concrete learners, we have the abstract learners, we have the active learners, and we have the reflective learners. And when you come back to the definition I gave earlier, that it is composed of cognitive, affectionate, and physiological factors. So when you look at abstract learners, you can place them around that cognitive because they like critical thinking. They like to look out for certain things and approach it thinking with critical thinking. And we also have the affectionate factor. When you look at maybe the learners when it comes to active, they really want to put it to use. They also fall under the psychomotive or the physiological factors. They want to put into use what you're teaching them. But like I said, for the sake of this program, we'll focus on the Neil Flemming model. The Neil Flemming model is also referred to as the VARK. V-A-R-K. V-A-R-K. The VARK model. It's an acronym which means V stands for visual. Visual. That is, we have learners that would prefer, they believe that whatever they see gives them comparative advantage to achieve the goal of learning. So V is visual. What they see. They prefer to see graphs. They would like to see maps. They would like to see pictures. Let me also add to visual, because I have seen certain students that find it difficult to concentrate in class. And I had to go back to sit down as a teacher, then look at it, that what could be the problem. And one of these days I came up with a video while I was teaching that particular subject, and all of a sudden I could see this child wanting to see the next picture and relating with the picture, and all of a sudden concentrates better in class. That worked for me, but there are a lot of other strategies to actually help students who do not concentrate in class. But this is something I've tried and it really worked. And like that's for the V. Then if you go to A is auditory. Auditory. A, auditory. Auditory. The ear or the mouth. The ear and the mouth. They prefer to hear because they believe that whatever they hear, they learn better. And when they say it, they don't forget. And let me say, we call them tape recorders. There are certain students that are tape recorders. Whatever you are teaching them goes into their ear. And they will not forget. And they can always remember it. I call them tape recorders because once you start teaching, whatever you're saying, they are recording it. They might not be writing down, but everything sticks. They are listening to you. They learn by listening. They are listening to you and they can pick whatever you say. And when you give them an exam, you'll be shocked that during the exam, they will write everything you said in class. Then when you talk about the R is reading and writing. Reading. They prefer to write. I'm sorry, I wish I had a screen behind me to show you all of this thing. But I'm trying to just improvise here. They prefer to write. Whenever you're teaching in class, they are making notes, and whenever once they get home, they read and they prefer to read and they prefer writing. Whenever they read, they learn better. They believe that gives them comparative advantage to learn. Then we have the last one, which is the K, which is the kinesthetic. Kinesthetic. I'll take it again. Kinesthetic, which we also call the hands-on learners. They are active learners. They want to put what they've learned into action. Let me give us an example. Probably you want to teach a child the mechanism behind this glass. Opening and closing. To open and to close. They would prefer to have that material, that object in question, place their hands on it and try it themselves. They want to try it themselves. They want to see the mechanism behind it. So, like I said, the Neil Flemming model looks at children from 4 different dimensions. That is V, A, VA, R, and K. VARK model, which is visual, auditory, reading and writing, and kinesthetic learners. So for the next video, we'll address them one after the other. We'll look at the visual, we'll look at the auditory, we'll look at the kinesthetic, then we'll look at the reading and writing. Yes, if you have any question, you can actually drop in the comment section. Like we said, the VARK model is what we're going to be looking at throughout this week. So I would like to drop this for teachers. You know, there's a question that you might beg to ask, that is it possible to accommodate this multiplicity? We'll answer that question when we get to the teacher's perspective, because it is really possible to actually accommodate. And I also like to add to this model, we know we have the VARK, which is VARK. But I'd like to add that we have others. We have the combination, whereby we have certain students that can actually combine 1 or 2. That is a child that can combine visual and also with that of the auditory. And we also have children that can actually combine hands-on and also auditory. Then we have those that we also consider as social. We have certain students that really want to teach what they've had. Whatever they've learned, they want to teach others, because they believe when they teach others, it is better instilled in them. They don't forget it. Okay, I'd like to drop this also with us. You know, there's this thing that we used to say, what we remember. Now, let me read out. We remember 10% of what we read. That's why I talk about the combination, that the child could also combine two different learning styles. Number 1, we remember 10% of what we read. Are we together? And also, we remember 20% of what we hear. Also, we remember 30% of what we see. Then also, we remember 50% of what we hear and what we see. Then also, we remember 70% of what we say. And that's why I say we have certain learners that they prefer to discuss what they've learned, because that gives them comparative advantage to learn that thing better. And finally, we remember 90% of what we say and what we do. So there's this bit of combination as well as in a learning style. And that's why I said in the earlier definition that there are certain instances whereby the learner might have to adjust depending on the learning task. So we're not trying to say that learners should just exhibit that uniqueness, but we actually also would train them to improve on other aspects. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining. I will prefer you drop your questions, comments, recommendations on how to go about improving the next video. Like I said, the next video will start with visual. We'll analyze the visual learners, then we'll move to auditory, then we'll move to kinesthetic, and also reading and writing. Thanks for joining. My name remains Awoni Babatunde Augusta.